A logline can be a really helpful tool when you're writing your own films, and in this video I'm going to break down what loglines actually are, why you should start using them, and of course how to actually go about writing your loglines. If you're new here, welcome. I'm a filmmaker and actor based in Auckland, New Zealand, and on this channel I make short films with my friends for practice, and we share our learnings as we grow in our careers as indie filmmakers. Let's talk about loglines. So firstly, what even is a logline? A logline is a really short summary of your film or your series, usually 1 or 2 sentences long. It tries to hook the interest of the person reading it, and it tries to capture the overall story of the film in a really general way. It's different from a synopsis, which could be anywhere from half a page to a few pages long. A logline will only give a big picture indication of the overall story, whereas a synopsis will go into much more depth and describe all the beats of the story. A logline is also definitely not the same as a tagline. A tagline is what you might see on the poster of a film at the movies. It's a marketing tool designed to hook viewers' attention and grab their interest after the film is made. A tagline will usually just hint at the story or the tone without spoiling anything, whereas a logline is quite specific and clearly lays it all out without worrying about spoiling the story. For example, from a quick Google, I can tell you that the tagline of the movie Jaws was "You'll never go in the water again," which is a pretty good indication that it's a scary movie set near the water. But the logline of the film would actually be quite different and have a lot more detail about the story. Now here's a logline for Jaws that I found online. A police chief with a phobia for open water battles a gigantic shark with an appetite for swimmers and boat captains in spite of a greedy town council who demands that the beach stay open. Sounds good? A logline is usually written well before a movie is made, and in some instances it's the first thing that the writer actually works on to draft up a rough idea of what the story actually is going to be. So that's a quick explanation of what loglines actually are. After I talk about why you should use loglines and how to actually write them, I'll share a few examples of loglines that I wrote based on famous movies that we've all seen. Now, why do you actually need a logline? Why not go straight into writing the first draft or the synopsis? For me, it feels like there are 2 main reasons why you should use a logline. Reason 1, your logline is the best and easiest way to communicate your idea to other people. Have you ever had someone try to tell you about their idea and they literally start at the start? Okay, so picture this. It opens on a wide shot, right, of a really big house, and there's a car pulls into the driveway, yeah? And then we cut inside and there's a man. He's unpacking his groceries. He gets a phone call. He gets a phone call from his brother. And his brother's like freaking out and he's like, "Bro, I need your help." So our main guy starts freaking out and he's like, "Bro, what's wrong?" Right? And then we cut to if you're trying to tell someone about your idea, like a potential collaborator, your logline is a really good way to just tell them what the story is about. It's got enough detail that it's going to be intriguing and it makes sense, but it's not so detailed that you're literally going beat by beat through the whole story, which can be really boring. Whether you're pitching to collaborators or applying for funding, your logline is usually the first thing that people are going to read or hear about your idea. So you want it to be interesting enough that they then want to know more about your idea. Here in New Zealand, every single funding application for any type of screen content asks you to provide a logline in the very first step of the application. So you can see how they are a really important way of communicating your story to people outside your project. This first use of the logline, or this first reason to use a logline, is the logline as a promotional or communication tool. But the second main reason to have a logline is more internal, and it's probably more important. This is the logline as a story tool or a diagnostic tool to help you as the writer figure out what your story is and what's at the heart of it. If you have a strong logline, it helps you stay on track as you're writing your script. You can think of your logline as the clothesline that you're going to hang all of your story ideas on, which are the clothes in this metaphor. Without the logline, you might get lost in telling your story and you might go off in all sorts of directions that then become really hard to resolve in a satisfying way in your story. But that doesn't mean that your logline has to be perfect before you write anything else. You can keep changing it as you go through the process. You can write your logline and then write your synopsis and then go back and refine the logline and then write your first draft and then go back and refine the logline again. It's a constantly changing tool that's there to help you keep the big picture of your story in mind. But how do you actually write a logline? There are heaps of different formulas for writing loglines, but all good loglines seem to have a few things in common. They all feature a description of the main character, the central action or the goal that the character is trying to achieve, as well as the obstacles that are standing in the character's way. Some loglines will also have a description of the antagonist or the villain, some will have a really strong indication of the tone of the piece, and some will include the inciting incident of the film. The best loglines achieve all of this in a really concise way, which is actually really hard to do. For me, I think of three main parts when I'm writing a logline: character, central action or goal, and obstacles. To help illustrate my process, I'll use these three parts to write a logline for the TV show Breaking Bad, which if you haven't seen by now, you should go and see it. It's really good. Part 1, character. Without a character, you don't really have a story, so there needs to be some sort of description of your main character or main characters in your logline. Usually a 1 or 2 word description of the character will be enough, and you want to choose the information about the character that's most relevant to that particular story. Usually it's also better to not name the character and instead use that word count to just give more information. For our Breaking Bad logline, we might describe Walter White as a high school chemistry teacher, which is all he is at the start of the story. Part 2, central action or goal. You want to have some sort of indication of the goal that the character is trying to achieve within your story. This is going to hint at the main spine of the story in a really general way, and it gives you more information about what actually happens in the story and what the characters are actually doing. For Breaking Bad, we might indicate that the central action is that Walt becomes a ruthless drug kingpin. If we thought about it in terms of goal, we might indicate that he's doing all of this to secure his family's financial future after he eventually dies of his cancer. Maybe you wouldn't put in both of those ideas in the logline, but they're just two pieces that we can use when we come to build our logline for the show. Part 3, obstacles. Obstacles in this context are everything that gets in the way of the character trying to achieve their goal. Obstacles aren't always mentioned in loglines, but I think it's a useful thing to think about when you're crafting a logline or your story. What makes a really good logline is when the obstacles, if they are mentioned, are directly tied to the central action and the character. For Breaking Bad, there's lots of different obstacles that we could choose from, like other drug dealers or the police. So you could take different obstacles and use them in different combinations in your loglines to see which one feels best. I think the obstacle that would make for the most intriguing logline for Breaking Bad is the fact that he has to keep all of this drug business stuff a secret from his family. There's inherent stakes in that, and there's a real sense of danger about keeping it a secret, right? So now that we have our 3 different elements, character, central action or goal, and obstacles, we can mix and match them up and write them in different combinations for Breaking Bad to see what feels best. Here's some that I wrote before. Number 1. An ordinary high school chemistry teacher becomes a ruthless drug kingpin and must hide this from his family. This is the most basic one, where I just took the 3 parts and put them in order. It's fine. Number 2. An ordinary high school chemistry teacher must hide his alter ego as a ruthless drug kingpin from his family while dealing with dangerous drug dealers and law enforcement. This one is starting to get a little bit wordy and long, but it adds in the other obstacles that we talked about, right? The drug dealers and the law enforcement. Number 3, a middle-class high school chemistry teacher with cancer becomes a ruthless drug kingpin in order to secure his family's financial future, but he must keep it a secret from them. This one focuses more on his goal and his motivation. We've added that tag of middle class to his character description, and we've added the mention of having cancer, so it gives you a really clear motivation for why he's becoming a ruthless drug kingpin. And it also indicates his goal being that he wants to secure his family's financial future. So these loglines are all slightly different and focus on different aspects of the story, but all of them have some sort of description of the character, some sort of indication of the central action or the goal, which in this case is becoming a drug kingpin, and some sort of indication of the obstacles, whether it's keeping it a secret from his family or the drug dealers or the law enforcement. If you reckon we can improve these loglines for Breaking Bad, let me know in the comments below, but hopefully this framework helps you write your own loglines for your films. So here are some examples of loglines from famous movies that I've seen that I've written based on just having seen the movies. See if you can guess the film before I tell you what it is. Number 1. A group of 9 heroes from very different cultures must travel through a harsh and dangerous world to destroy a magical artifact which would allow evil to take over the world if it fell into the hands of the enemy. This one is quite long and very wordy, but obviously it is Lord of the Rings, specifically Fellowship of the Ring. Number 2. The fearless leader of a tribal group and an undercover Indian officer working for the British Empire develop a deep bond without the officer knowing that he is secretly searching for the other man. Once the truth comes out, they decide to join forces and fight back against their despotic rulers together. Whew! This one is also very wordy. I'm not very good at keeping things concise, clearly. But this is a logline for RRR, which is the Telugu film that became a worldwide sensation a few years ago. I'm sure there are ways we can improve that one. Number 3. A poor family, struggling to survive, carefully manipulate their way into working for a wealthy family at their lavish house, only to discover that the previous housekeeper's husband has been living in the secret basement for years, running from debts. I found this one hard to write because it's tricky to figure out how to describe the central action of the film. It's quite an unconventional storyline, like you can't sum up what the poor family is actually trying to achieve in one sentence. But in any case, obviously this one is Parasite by Bong Joon-ho, one of my favorite films of all time. Number 4. A poor and orphaned blacksmith teams up with an eccentric pirate to save the love of his life, an aristocrat, after she gets kidnapped by the pirate's former crew, who are now undead. What I like about this one is that it sets up the poor and orphaned blacksmith with the idea of the love of his life being an aristocrat. So poor aristocrat, you kind of instantly get, as a bonus, this indication of why they can't be together. And obviously this is Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, the good one. A dysfunctional family struggling to run their convenience store plot to rob a shipment of cocaine at a corporate Christmas party. This is a trick question. This is actually the logline of a feature film that I've written that I hope to make one day. It's a comedy heist and you can imagine it as Ocean's 11 meets Bend It Like Beckham. Number 6. Having run out of American accent pills, an anxious actor must record and submit a self-tape audition before the looming deadline. This is also a trick question. This is actually the logline for a short film that we made for this channel, made by just 3 people in one location. I'll leave a link for it in the description below if you want to check it out. Some of these loglines are better than others, right? And a better writer than me would be able to make them all really interesting to pique your curiosity and much more concise, probably. But they give you an idea of what loglines can actually look like. Let me know how you think we can improve these loglines to be more accurate or more interesting or more concise. So that's loglines. I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any suggestions on any of the loglines that I've written for this video, please do let me know. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and you'll see me in the next one. Bye.